plan cu el și okay? Tu doar vorbitorii o să rămână aștept.
Mi-a spus din sală că n-am vorbit că nu merge.
Dacă
Merg?
vorbiți tare, că dacă dau mai nivelul mai tare, o să facă microfonul.
Ok.
Acum, ne-am băgat și noi acolo, dar o să pot să dau mai tare. Un pic.
Da, mai tare, când faci microfonul, dă mai încet.
Trebuie să mă duc sus acolo, să ies din sală.
Aha.
Da, mi-a urmat.
Eu zic că poți să dai drumul la live, acum...
Era dat drumul.
Ah, ok.
Fără sunet. Nu putem da drumul la live. nu o să fie în stare să vorbesc. Da.
One, two, one, two. Hello, everybody. We're happy to have you all in Sibiu. Happy to have a full house and people here from all over Romania, Bucharest, Cluj, and Arad. Happy to have you all here. So we had a contest, and I drew the short stick. So it's my turn to introduce everybody. We have this conference with Zilliqa, presenting our project Impetus 1. And I'm going to just do a rundown of the speakers tonight. We're going to start with Valentin Radu, who's a serious entrepreneur. He started various startups from scratch to exit, like RCA Ieftin. If you guys have a car, you might know it. Then we will have Samuel Kurman, who's the co-founder of Impetus. More on him later. And then Laurențiu Bălașa, he's the co-founder of Timi Studios. Then we go to Eugen Iordănescu, who's director of Sibiu Chamber of Commerce. And then we will have Norman Frankel. And of course, in the end, we will have Amrit from Zilliqa closing the show. So more on each speaker in its due time. I'll pass it on to Valentin now, and I hope you guys have a good time.
Thanks, Eddie. Hello, everyone. It's glad to be here. Just a second to switch the slides. Okay. Loading. So I'm Valentin, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm involved in tech and online and internet since 2001. I would like to start this presentation with a few things about me and my company. We are a 5 years old Romanian startup. We are part of a bigger family from 3TS investment fund. We are helping more than 18,000 websites to personalize their experience, and we are backed by European Investment Fund. Each month we are changing the web experience for more than 500 million unique visitors. And we are a team of 30 people. What we are doing actually is to do testing and personalization to change everything on the website in order for that website to convert better. We are, by analyzing these web experiences, we've understood the power of conversion rate, and we've also made it so that we've seen how changing the small things can lead to big outcomes. So mainly I'm going to pass over these slides. We are working with a lot of big brands, international and from Romania as well. I'm going to propose to you a game so that you don't look so strange from this side of the stage. So during this game, do you want to play this game? I mean, you are, yeah, are you in or are you not? Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, so this game is pretty simple. So you will just need to count these balls, yeah? So I'm gonna just press play here. So at the end of this game, which is gonna be like 50 seconds, I'm gonna ask you how many balls have you seen flying through the screen. So pay attention. Okay, so how many balls have you seen? 20. So who's for 27? 27. Okay, and who's for 28? Okay. So the problem is that you shouldn't count. As you can see here on the screen, there was that message. So mainly our attention was on the balls, while we've got everything over there. And during this presentation, I'm going to talk exactly about this principle, about our attention span and how this works. So you can't focus on two things at the same time. And another important thing about this is how one can tame a lion. Do you know how one can tame a lion? He's using 3 objects. So he has 3 tools in his tool set. One is a gun, you can see it there. One is a 4-leg chair, and one is a whip. Which one do you think is the most used out of those? The chair, but why? That's the big question. So indeed, the 4-leg chair is the one that he uses most often. And the problem is that the lion he's looking at the first leg, and then at the second, and then at the third, and he eventually gets tired and he sits there. So mainly that's what's happening with the humans too. So we tend to look at a lot of things, and eventually we are tired and we can't focus anymore. And our focus capacity is one of the most important assets that we have. And that means that during this environment and this context where we are bombarded with incentives and promotions and disinformation noise, it's pretty hard to focus on some things. So our attention span, according to some statistics from the Institute of Biotechnology from the US, is decreasing. So in 2000, the average human attention span was around 12 seconds, and in 2013, it's around 8 seconds, while the average attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds. So that means we have less time to focus, and that means we need to we need to be much more sharp in what we are investing, where we are investing our attention to. So one thing that I want to focus your attention towards is the online advertising, which it's broken, and that's how Impetus One got me on their idea and their venture. So one thing about online ads is that they are expensive, and this is the data. So that's the evolution of the cost per conversion, because I'm in this game. It started in 2008 from less than $1, and right now is $17. So that means this is not a game anymore, because you need to pay the tribute as a new startup or as a company to pay this 17 times more on conversions. And then online ads are inefficient. If you can see here, that's the return for companies that invested into Facebook ads. So only 24% of the companies have experienced positive returns from Facebook ads. So another thing is that the online ads are annoying. So 75% of Americans are finding that the online ads are intrusive. So whatever you are looking and however you are looking towards the online ad space, the ads are intrusive, and people just want to get rid of them, and that's why they are blocked. So this is the usage of ad block software from 2011, when there were like 30 million people. Right now, more than 600 million people are using ad block software. So mainly it's not a thing anymore to invest in advertising. So the publishers, they do have a solution, because what they are doing, if you can see what the New York Times is doing, they've started to invest heavily in content and invest heavily in something that people actually want to read, or actually want to consume as content. So they've managed to have more than a half of their revenue from subscription. So that's their route. And the route for brands, they do need a solution. And I will pass over the mic to Samuel to give you some clues about what they are aiming to build here with Impetus One.
Thanks. Would you allow me to sit? I'm pretty tall and I won't reach the keyboard in a good manner. Thanks, Valentin, for the introduction. Yeah, online advertising is broken. We experienced this on our own business, Kurtman.ro. I'm sure the girls around know it. Because we mostly sold women's fashion. And we confronted ourselves with this truth that Vali said. The conversion rate went up from less than $1 to $17, which is huge. Which was huge for our business model and is huge for most business models. So if you've seen our ads, I'm going to hit play here, so it's still full screen. If you've seen our ads, the Steve ad, I'm sure you know it, the advertiser struggle in a day. His problem is that he goes and pays for a coffee and he receives an empty cup of coffee. And this is like the symbol that we have experienced whenever you pay for a click, and most of the times you get nothing in return. And of course, every click that you pay for, which doesn't give you anything in return, increases your conversion cost, doesn't it? And so the problem rolls and rolls and rolls. And you have to pay huge amounts to get a conversion. Of course, advertising has shifted in the way that most marketers say, okay, then you have to improve your side a lot. You have to optimize, you have to retarget customers and stuff like that by other orders to decrease your customer acquisition cost. But that shifts the entire burden on the marketer and on the company, on the business owner, which isn't quite fair. Because every increase in cost makes Google and Facebook richer, which you will see here have the biggest share of the market, and it increases the pressure on the business owner. Also, a huge problem in this business model is that new businesses, startups, can't afford to pay that much. So you have there's an example for L'Oreal, who owns most keywords in beauty. So if a startup wants to compete with L'Oreal, they're going to have to pay $7 for every click they receive. So of course nobody can compete with that. So L'Oreal has managed to get the cost, the market got the cost that high that only L'Oreal or an established company can pay for it. So that is a huge problem for new startups. So our business model, this is also an extract from our ad with Steve, when he finally gets his coffee, and next to his coffee he gets this croissant. So our motto here would be convert and profit, and this is not for you to join a cult that loves croissants. It's only to show us that it's normal that after a conversion or during a conversion, the customer that fuels the entire system has to profit also. The entire business model of the advertising industry is bombarding customers with ads, with remarketing ads, and they get nothing out of it. They get nothing for their data, they get nothing for what they spend on business and make them prosper. So at Impetus One, what we are trying to do is not only focus on conversion, we're going to see it a bit later, but first of all, whatever money comes in the marketing, in the advertising industry, has to be shared with the customer. This business model until now that Google and Facebook as other advertisers are going fat on our money and the customers get nothing, for sure has to change. So, like I said, it's not only about conversions, it's also about perception. So every week, each one of you received a card when they went inside. I'm going to ask you to take a look at it. Does everybody have their cards? Okay. So on this card and on the screen, you have two tables. And I'm going to have to ask you to tell me which of the two tables is longer and which of the two tables looks more square to you. Take a good look, make an estimation, and who goes with left for longer? Does the left table look longer than the other one? Okay. Does the one on the right look longer than the other one? No. Okay, if you're going to take the ruler out, there is a ruler attached to it. You can measure it. Both tables look exactly the same, have exactly the same dimension. It's only a perception that our brain is fooled into thinking that the one on the left is longer than the other one. Actually, it's exactly the same table. The thing is that perception can change reality sometimes. Even if, like, a very good example recently is McDonald's. If you've been to McDonald's recently, you've probably seen that they want to shift from fast food that is considered to be unhealthy to add menus like salads and stuff like that are more healthy. But even if they did that, if I'm going to ask you what do you think about McDonald's, you're going to say it's junk food, it's unhealthy. Most of people think that McDonald's is less healthy than KFC. So they are doing a lot of work into changing their menus. But unless they do stuff to change your perception about it, there's probably you won't go there. So perception is very, very important. And brands, while they attack customers with huge amount of ads, they lose the perception of the customer. They are going to be perceived as abusive. And publishers also. If you go on sites, I'm sure you went on sites, especially Romanian sites, you're going to see a lot of products about how to lose weight, how to lose 10 kilograms in a week and stuff like that. Whenever you go on a site like that, I'm sure you perceive the entire site as scammy, because it doesn't look good and it's untrue. So often publishers just take from the ad exchange whatever comes there, and they lose a lot in customer perception. So I'm going to just run quickly through the market and give you an intro of what, for most of the options that are out there, which are the classical PPC campaigns. King in this domain is Google and Facebook, where you pay per click. Then there's ad baiting. This is basically paying customers to view or click the ads. I'm very much against this, and our team is very much against this, because this is a very disloyal way of attracting more engagement from customers. Then there's affiliate marketing. Affiliate marketing almost made it. The principle behind it is pretty okay. You pay per conversion, but the problem is that the way they are registering the conversions makes the publisher try to throw as much ads at you to get your last click. And if they got your last click, if they got you in their cookie, then they can monetize you whatever else happens. So their motive is, as much as possible, to throw as many ads at you, never mind the quality, just to get your clicks. So there's another way of doing advertising that hasn't been addressed properly. There are some attempts, but hasn't been addressed properly, which is to try to nudge customers into fulfilling their life goals. And here there's an extra from a book that we all read. It's a very interesting book. I encourage you all to read. It's called Nudge, written by Richard H. Thaler and Cass Sunstein. Mr. Thaler has a Nobel Prize in economy, especially for the things that he wrote in this book. So basically he says that there's a lot of us, and I'm sure all of us identify, there's a lot of us that want to eat more healthy, want to walk a lot more, want to ride a bicycle maybe more, maybe want to spend more time doing trips in the mountains, stuff like that. And all of us know that this is very good for us, very good for our health, very good for our family, or whatever. How many of us do it? Few. We probably time blame it on time, we don't have enough time, or maybe don't have enough motivation, or whatever. But the thing is, the fact remains, these are good things for us that we don't do. And these two guys say in this book, we interpret the statement, I should be saving or dieting or exercising more, to imply that people would be open to strategies that would help them achieve these goals. In other words, they are open to a nudge. They might even be grateful for one. And this is not something that we think it might be true. This is something we are sure that is true. And this is what we are building our business model on. We know and we think that customers will be quite grateful if we're going to have brands nudging them into fulfilling their life goals. In this clip that we have made, I'm sure most of you have seen it, there's the guy sitting on a couch not doing anything, eating chips and watching TV all day long. So he's being nudged into fulfilling what he wanted to do since a very long time, getting back on track and skiing, and then he invites his friend on it. So this is the type of matching we want to do between brands and users. We want to identify markets, we want to identify the goals of users, okay, what we want to do. and then have brands nudge them with certain amounts that they were spending anyway on Google and AdWords and give it to the customer. So a mission in our platform would be like, okay, go ahead and run for 10 days or whatever, 10 kilometers, and then you're going to receive $10 or whatever. Or do this and that, which is useful for yourself and for the brand, and you're going to get a reward. And we think that by this way we are going to solve some pains that the market, that the advertising market is confronted with, which is, one of them is the expensive and inefficient targeting. Everybody competing against each other to raise the bid cost per keyword, of course it's going to raise the cost. In our business model, if you are going to give the customer a reward, it's going to be the reward that makes sense for your business. And most customers, if you identify correctly through our platform, whatever they desire, whatever their life goals are, ads are going to be less expensive. Also, the customer, of course, is going to be a lot more motivated to do something if they receive a reward for it. Like Valentin said before, we are assaulted with ads. So most of the time we discard the ads. If there's going to be a reward with that ad, I'm sure customer attention would be a lot better. Then the second part is the short-sightedness of all market participants. Like I said before, if you keep abusing customers, they're going to become ad blind. And ad blindness is a huge problem in the advertising industry right now. Why? Because customers are really getting abused by ads. So you gotta find a way to engage them differently, to engage them on long term, to get their loyalty, to get their thankfulness for helping them fulfill their life dreams. The cost roller coaster, like Valentin said, you start with a certain amount for a conversion cost, and then it goes up. He didn't describe the nightmare that, depending on your industry, you are having, depending on sale periods. So in fact, in the fashion industry, during spring and during autumn, conversion cost goes up because there are a lot of offers and people are competing against each other to show their ads. Also, like I said before, there's a high entry barrier for small companies because the entire ad system is based on money. So Google isn't interested about how creative, how beautiful, how motivating, and how useful your ad is. Google only cares about how much you pay for click, and Facebook the same, and most of the advertising engines that we have mentioned before. So we are trying to increase the ad efficiency by redirecting ad funds to users. We deeply believe that if you are going to reward customers for their action, they are going to be a lot more engaged with it. Also, this is a principle that should work in a lot of layers in our economy, revenue sharing. We shouldn't make giants like Google and Facebook, like we've seen before. They hold almost half of the inventory that is displayed on desktop and more than half on mobile phones. Then there's a fixed conversion cost, which is essential for every business. You need to know how much you pay for advertising, and you need to know how much you're going to pay for advertising next month or next year. Also, there's the network effect that we are going to invite friends into challenges. This is one app that we are having. It's called Impetus Go. So whenever you go somewhere, you will invite your friends, and they will stake some amount. You're going to dictate the stake. So let's give you an example. We all came to this conference, and we had, I think, like 200 something subscriptions. And I think we're like 140 people. That means 62 people that registered didn't show up. So if we would have done this in Impetus Go, we would have said, okay, if you did subscribe, you have to stake $1. If you're not going to come, you're going to lose the dollar, and we're going to have a beer with your dollar. So basically, we are trying to engage customers and then engage their communities. Once you have those communities engaged, you're going to have markets that advertisers are going to be able to target. Also, we are very interested in the wider spread of cryptocurrency use. You know, there's a very big barrier that people are trying to lower it for people that are not very technical to enter the crypto world. And this is a problem. I mean, my wife wouldn't use cryptocurrencies for nothing in the world. I mean, as they are right now. But if she would have a mission, and then if she would have some cryptocurrencies in her mobile app, she doesn't even need to know that it's a wallet on the blockchain and stuff like that. That's relevant for her. But you will see the power of cryptocurrencies being able to send it instantly, or well, almost instantly. Well, on Zilliqa it will be instantly. You can send it everywhere with almost no commission, which is totally different from the banking system as we know. And of course, there's social nudging. There is this principle of brands with purpose and CSR, corporate social responsibility. We want to encourage brands to shift their way of looking at the market and seeing what they can do for the customers. And we want customers to educate the customers and see that they have a lot of power and they can have brands work on their side and working for them instead of abusing them. A very important principle of our business model is that we are mobile first. Our entire platform will revolve around the mobile app. We want to be close to the customers. We want to have a very short feedback loop. We want to know what they are paying for and stuff like that. And that is going to be very useful for us, and it can be accomplished only by mobile targeting. Also, a very important component of our platform is the AI engine that will build ad relevancy. If you don't serve relevant ads for the customer, then the whole castle of cards can crumble. So we are not going to take into consideration, like Google and Facebook does, only the ad cost. We're going to take into consideration the age, the health, the mission, enrollment, their installed apps that they have on the phone, and very importantly, we are trying, and we will have a very open policy about accessing the private data of the customers. We believe that customers will be able to build very good ad profiles if we keep an open discussion with them. So it's going to be like, after we enroll into a mission, we're going to be asked very soon, did you like the mission? Would you like to see other missions like that? Didn't you like the mission? We think that you might like that mission and stuff like that, because it's very important for customers to give us feedback so that we can deliver the most relevant ads for them. Other advertising agents are doing this like behind the customer's back. You've seen the recent scandals with Facebook and stuff like that, but I think there's another way, and it will be a very good way in educating the customers to take charge of their private data. So, of course, at every platform that you build that you want to be successful, it has to be error tolerant, because we are humans, humans forget, humans are not robots, there are parts that we do not understand. So we deeply think that to make this platform work, we're going to have a token with a fixed price. To have a token with a fixed price, we're going to lock the tokens into our platform, so an advertiser that comes into the platform and wants to make an ad campaign, he's going to pay, let's say, for example, $1 to the customer, and 30% they're going to pay to the platform, which means 10% for us and 20% for the publisher. So whenever the customer will want to cash out, he's going to receive $1 for his token. It might be a different value on the exchange. He will have the possibility to take the tokens and go on the exchange if it's more expensive or if he is technical. But most customers, all customers, will have the possibility to cash out at the price of $1. It has to be this way for brands to be able to use the platform. You don't want to pay, you don't want to promise to a customer that he's going to receive $1, and then because of the markets, the next day his token is worth only 50 cents. So there's the other thing of usefulness of our platform. I mentioned a couple of our use cases. There are a lot more. Eugenio Ordonescu is going to talk in a couple of minutes about our collaboration with European region of gastronomy. The CBU is going to be in 2019, where we're going to have culinary missions together with them. But use cases, of course, don't stop here. I mean, think of, if you look in our white paper, you can look at the use cases we try to figure out. Like Tomorrowland could have like a circuit of scenes you're going to have to, you can visit. But what we mostly like is the use case of Nike, and me personally, I like the use case of Salomon. And we are in discussions with ski resort Arena Platoș next to Sibiu, trying to reward skiers for the amount of skiing they do in this resort. So they are going to reward customers for starting more than 10 kilometers skied on their resort. And the money they're going to receive, we are trying to find ways for users to be able to spend inside the resort. And also Nike could reward somebody for walking or for running and stuff like that. So this is about it. We are we are a group of experienced entrepreneurs. We have a lot of experience in marketing. We have behavioral economics experts. Michael Stevens isn't here, but he and Eugenio Donescu wrote a very good paper on our white paper that gave us a lot of good information that we included in our business model. And of course, we want you on our Twitter feed, we want you on our Telegram, and keep reading our Medium posts. So this was it. I hope you like our business model and we'll keep in touch. Thanks.
Hi everybody. How many people are from Romania and how many people are from outside of Romania? I'm really curious, just personal curiosity, because is anybody in the room coming from outside of Romania? Besides, obviously, you guys. So you're all from Romania. So we're really glad. Romania, sorry, excuse me. Really glad to have you in Romania and present to you an ICO coming from Romania and this awesome traditional Romanian music that you can hear from outside of the room, which that's traditional music, if you were wondering. So my name is Lawrence. I'm here to announce publicly the partnership that we have with Impetus One, between Impetus One and Timmy Studios, a company I co-founded. Sorry about that. So I was saying that I'm here to announce the partnership that we have with Impetus One. Timmy Studios is a mobile publisher. We're the biggest mobile publishers in Romania and one of the biggest in Europe, with about 600 million downloads to date in the last 5 years. And the way we've been monetizing in these last 5 years is through ads. So the idea that Impetus has, the pay permission concept that they have, is really relevant to us. And that's why we formed this partnership. Maybe switch it again.
That's worse.
Okay. So as I was saying, the main revenue driver for us is ads. But ads are really tricky. I mean, they're ugly, they interrupt the user experience, they're annoying, and we kind of hate using them, but we have to use them because they're our main revenue driver. One of the main issues we've seen with ads, besides the fact that they're ugly, is that they're really fluctuating. I mean, the revenue that we're generating might be 5 million one year, it might be 3 million next year, 7 million next year. It depends on the campaigns that they're running, so you can't really rely on a certain revenue amount each year. Are you guys seeing something? Okay, I think you're seeing my notes also, so that's not cool. Okay. Yep. Okay. That was the main intro. Okay. Timmy's KPIs. So, as I'm sitting here, about 5 downloads per second, that's the velocity that we have. That's the way we measure our business. So each second we get about 5 new people using our apps, downloading and using our apps. So that's like 5, 10, 15. So we get a lot of downloads. I said previously about 600 million downloads up until today from a giant portfolio of about 10,000 apps. This is our team. We started quite small 5 years ago. Kept on growing, kept on growing the team. Kept on growing the team. Let me show you a few of our products that we will test the Impetus solution on. So we develop teams and keyboard apps mainly. So these are a few keyboard teams and the corresponding keyboard apps that they're applied on. These are a few of our launcher teams and the corresponding launcher apps that they're applied on. We also do locker teams and locker apps. These are apps that just lock your phone. We're also doing a bit of messaging, SMS apps, SMS teams, wallpaper packs, sticker and sticker packs. This is just one of our main products that we launched in Romania, Stick Chat, which was pretty funny. Yeah, and we're mainly eager to test Impetus on our 30 million active users, and we hope to get rid of ads. That's all. Were my notes funny, or? I think you were reading them as I was speaking, right? Because they were. That's sad. That's sad for me. Sorry about that. Let me see what I was saying there. I wasn't saying anything about the audience, right? I wasn't saying I need to tell these people.
Nothing obscene. It's fine.
Oh, okay. Let me tell you a few words. That's fine. Okay, that's professional. That's okay. Sorry. Yeah.
So, hello everybody. Hello everybody. I hope that I already convinced you that I am not really a good advisor for a digital event. I was born in the last century, do you remember? When the paper ran the business and the computer was just in the movies, okay? So, I really apologize. My friend Daniel asked me when I came how to present me, and I say, okay, I don't know, but please don't present me like advisor in the digital business or in cryptocurrency or things like so, because I'm really a newcomer. So, I like very much behavioral economist Daniel Kahneman, who won the Nobel Prize, one of the first Nobel Prize for behavioral economics, and Kahneman said that frequently we switch a hard question with a better one for us. So I will not tell you a lot about behavioral economics. I'm the president of Economic Psychology International Association, and we run the majority of experiments in the East Europe regarding behavioral economics and economic psychology. But this was before we already write the papers and give our point of view, and Impetus one, it's on his good way now. At this level, I want just to complain against one of the Samuel proposition regarding perception. Never the perception changed the world. Let me give you the true, bloody, scientific results. We don't have any reality. Our perception, it's the reality. Because the only way to have this, whatever it is, in our brain, it's using our sense and our perception. And yes, you are right. If you perceive the left table to be the longer one, yes, this table, it's the longer one for you because you decide in this way, and on the basis of this perception, who is not something scary and modified mirroring of reality. For my brain, this is the true and entirely reality. And for this point of view, I think that this business environment came with some kind of very new approach in order to say that, okay, let's build together a business community. Let's build together advertising. Let's build networking. Let's build adherence to a system who will not run out of us, against us sometimes, but will run with us and for us. That's all about behavioral economics. If you are really interested, let me announce you that the yearly World Conference will be in July in London this year. I hope that a lot of you were in Sibiu 2015 when the World Conference was run it by Lucian Blaga, University of Sibiu and APIA. And if you are really interested about this amazing field of research, you can find a lot of information on apia.ro or on SIBA, S-I-B-A, or ERAP websites who are full of, you know, scientific results about trust nudging and everything. On the other hand, I am the strategical coordinator of a consortium who will run next year the biggest European program in Romania called the European Region of Gastronomy. We will call it frequently Capital because the biggest European program run it in Sibiu was 2007 Cultural Capital of Europe. And we will try to repeat a big event, not just for the local community, but also for Romania and for Europe. 2019 will be a very special year for Romania and for Sibiu, because we'll have here the summit of European community, and not just one summit of Europe. We'll have the summit, the very special summit where the chief of states and government in European Union will decide which of the 5 scenarios will be implemented regarding European Union. So we will be a 2 levels Europe, a 2 speed Europe, we will be a federation. What has happened with that? What has happened after the very nice you know, decision of the English people called Brexit? Okay, so probably Sibiu will be the territory where this decision will be held next year. In the meantime, we try to establish in this year here a business model regarding gastronomy, and when we talked about gastronomy, we talked about food, drink, and being together on this occasion, okay? Because the majority occasion when you are with the lovest people in your life, it's when you drink something, a glass of water or something, I don't know, maybe wine, semi, after, or when we share the food, but also when we share the time spent it together. Today, gastronomy, eating, is not a way to remain in life, but it's a way to be with somebody in your life. And for this kind of event, I will not bore you explaining objective and whatever. We really want to use a business model like Impetus One, because we want to build networks, business networks regarding gastronomy and HoReCa businesses in our region, and after the next year in Europe, in Romania and in Europe. For us, it's very important to have some kind of, you know, gastronomy competitions or gastronomy network to be used by our customers like a game, like, I don't know, I will just say the Romanian words, orientare turistică. If you remember the games for the other century in the forest, when you go and search clues and find something and win points or some kind of rewards. And we really hope that in partnership with Impetus One and with all these very special guys, we will be able to have next year in function a nice app in Sibiu in order to allow us to pay with the smartphones in all our network. And what is very special with this network? Let's imagine that you buy just one token, just one unit, one Impetus, okay? And you buy it with $1. In the first moment that you have in your pocket, in your electronic pocket, this one token, we reward you with 1.10 cents in our network. That means if you go and eat in the best restaurant in Sibiu, and you have to pay $1.10, this will cost you just $1 if you pay with the token, okay? And after that, our idea is to have some kind of competitive missions, gastronomical missions in all the country. And if you fulfill the mission, you will gain price at the level of token, but you will receive some very nice surprise from the organizer of the RGA program. Okay, this is our dream. We hope to live this dream together next year, to test it, to drink it, and to have fun in Sibiu. And in other just to complicate a little bit the discussion, I announce you that Sibiu intend to be the first community in Romania who want to have a local currency. We will not establish yet if this currency will be Impetus or not, but we are quite sure that in the next year we will run the first local currency in Romania in Sibiu. Thank you for your attention.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Unfortunately, yes, I'm British. Yes, we're doing Brexit, but I want to benefit from that discount and loyalty offer that's available. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm proud to be British. I've even got my British socks on. So my name's Norman Frankel. I have over 24 years in the payments industry. I've actually been doing mobile payments and mobile commerce since 1996. I'm one of the people that's acknowledged to have driven the original idea of prepaid mobile phones and mobile commerce. And I've spoken all over the world on the subject. And that ultimately led to me running my own mobile payments firm. We ended up establishing an office here in Sibiu. We had over 50 staff working there. And in 2014, I listed that company on the Junior Stock Exchange in the UK. And then I've carried on. I've remained in leading edge technologies ever since. I'm now chairman of a cybersecurity company that's built the world's first automatic self-defending robot using AI. So I like new technology, but I'm not a technologist at all. I'm a marketeer, and I understand payments. And in 1995, when I was working for NatWest Bank, we did our first nudge experiment. At the time, we had physical statements that went out to customers. We persuaded some merchants that we would like to test whether those customers even read the statements. And to our surprise, those merchants put some coupons in, and the customer response rate was fantastic. The only problem was we cancelled the program. Because in 1995, what happened was the post went out, people left their envelopes on the desk at home, and they didn't open it until literally the day before they had to go and pay their credit card bill. And then they found these offers for 20% off a bouquet of roses, 50% off your next pair of shoes. And the system we'd built was so clever at knowing that you had an anniversary in 2 weeks' time, that we were able to persuade a merchant to pay for those vouchers. We knew that you were probably going to buy a new pair of shoes because our database had told us that every May you bought shoes. And we had a massive amount of complaints. So many complaints, we actually stopped the program because it was too successful. And that was 1995. And so I think this interest is fascinating. But let's go a step further. Digital conversion, relatively easy compared to the problem that a small and local merchant has. Let's take a look. Which one am I using? This one?
You use it and you can just scroll. Next.
That one?
Yeah.
Fine. So, let's meet Emma. And if you can stay awake for my 3 slides, I'm going to give you a little tip that's going to save you a lot of money or a lot of time about Emma. So, a customer enters the store, buys a product. It's a local store. What does that store or business owner know about me? What have I bought? Well, unfortunately for Emma, she actually had to go out when I came into the store to buy something. So actually, how would Emma know what my experience was like, what I bought? Did I enjoy it? Can anybody guess what I even bought? No, of course not. You've got no context. What if Emma had context? Well, the context was, there in Piazza Mica, there is an amazing juice bar. It's called Sibio. If you haven't tried it, I recommend you try it. Go and try one of their shots. Better than anything you'll find in London, Dubai, anywhere else. I love these shots so much that I actually drive customers there because if anybody ever wants to meet me, like VRL, I say, hey, let's meet in Sibio, and you can buy me a shot. So, I bought 2 shots. I paid the bill. But Emma didn't know that. I actually met somebody there. Emma didn't know that either. How does Emma get me to come back? How does she know if I even liked it? How would you do it? This is your lifeblood. Small businesses are the lifeblood. You look at Japan, you look at Germany, you look at the UK, you look at any strong nation economically, and over 60% of the business that's driving that economy comes from small merchants, physical merchants usually. Why? Because they're the ones that pay their taxes. They're the ones that employ people. They're not like Starbucks that are avoiding tax. And they're not like Uber, who only employ 200 people but have billions of dollars. These are really important to have in your community if you want a strong community. So, what if Emma had feedback? Interesting. Okay, so what if I went into a store, I used a QR code, and in that QR code it allowed me to say my name, my experience, maybe say what I had even bought. Well, if Emma had known that I loved this ginger shot, or the Zilliqa shot, maybe Emma could persuade me to come back. If she knew I'd already gone with somebody else, maybe she could even encourage me to come back with 4 people, because I'm going to get a free shot. And I'm going to try the new shot, the summer special. Emma could therefore send me a reward. Does that make sense? If you've got a small local business, would that help you? I think it would. So, what do we have today? Well, we have money. We have coupons in some countries. We have cards to pay. And if you're a really big company, you even have loyalty cards. But how does that help Emma? She's small. She's local. Emma already has the ability to take multiple types of payment and multiple payment instruments. That's a given. In most instances, even if some of the card fee charges are a little bit exorbitant. But she has that ability. But what she does not have She probably has 0 to no in-store customer or even brand insight as to what I thought about that product. Not unless Emma knew me really, really well. But then I'm a loyal customer already. So there's limited loyalty, there's limited connection, there's limited communication. How do I develop a relationship with you if I can't communicate? But we already have everything today that allows us to do this. The mobile device. Today, with a single tap on a single device, we can do absolutely everything. Just as an aside, I was in a cybersecurity conference last week in Sicily. Everybody was speaking in Italian, and I understood absolutely everything. But I don't speak Italian. Why? Because I now from my smartphone. I even asked questions. The panel didn't understand it. Me, my personal translator. Hey, maybe I could have used it in a different way. So my phone today allows me to pay. It can give immediate insights, feedback straight away. Who uses WhatsApp, Messenger? How quickly does it ping through? It's instantaneously. And guess what? We start to engage. If I send a message a while ago, hey, meet me in Sibio, I'll buy you a shot. I said, absolutely, because I love those shots. So I do hope you go to Sibio, by the way, and do try a shot. But what this allows is it allows a nudge to bring somebody back, if you know that customer. So, how else can Emma benefit? Well, what if Emma went onto a portal? She created a paid-for campaign, paid for by the brand, Coca-Cola in this particular instance, and then sent a message out to the customers that she knows about, that she's connected through in multiple ways, and said, hey look, you got 50% off with a purchase of our new cake range. I'm trialing it. Bring a friend and earn a free shot if you take our survey. The survey obviously having some information about the brand within it. Sounds good to me, I want my shot. So, hey, I phone a few friends up, don't know if Remus is in the room, Radu certainly is. Come along, I want my free shot. I go into the store. I can redeem that with the QR code that's on my phone. So I've gone into the store, I've brought my friend, I've completed the Impetus in-app survey, and I've earned a free shot. But guess what? It says, if your friends also complete the brand survey, they can have a free shot too. And I love those shots so much, I'm going to tell Radu, you really want a free shot, complete this survey. You're going to get a free shot. So just fill it in. It won't take any time at all. Now, I haven't even tried this new Coca-Cola brand out just yet. All I've done is I've given my perceptions about what I think is going to be there. I'm also probably going to give some perceptions about the cake that I'm about to have. And I can tell Emma a little bit about what I think about her store and why I like it so much. So, I'm in there with my friends. I've ordered Emma's new cake range. I've got my discount on the cake. And me and the friend have earned a free shot. Well, whilst we're in there, we're having a great chat. The friend has gone on to buy a coffee, a cake, because he liked what I was saying, and another shot, because he wanted to try the Svekla shot this time round. So, go on to pay with it, with the QR code, and now, using the old one, using my nudge token, not the impetus token, then what what I can also do is fill out another survey about what I actually thought about the new Coke and the new cake. Emma, meanwhile, can see a live dashboard. So can the brand. Does anybody know how long it takes a brand like Coca-Cola, if you used a coupon in a store like Kaufland, in order to get the data around how many people are buying, let alone you can't get personalized, but you can get aggregated data. It takes nearly 6 months. That's a heck of a long time. But now I can get it instantaneously as the brand. And I complete my post-purchase survey to earn a token. And guess what? If I collect 5 of these tokens, I can be nudged into another free shot. The summer specials are coming up. So look, Emma gets paid rewards from the brand because Emma herself has achieved targets on sales and the bonus rewards for getting the customer to give feedback on the brand. Emma is now earning double money, and she would never, ever, ever have even earned this revenue stream before. Giving lifeblood to small local merchants who desperately need your business. So, I promised you that I would help to save a lot of time and a lot of your money if you managed to follow me this far. Anybody followed me? Okay, great. Whatever you do, don't click on this photo or search for Emma Watson and just go for a link on the top page of Google. You have a more than 45% chance of that link carrying a virus that will take down your smartphone or your laptop. And good luck getting rid of that. I'm in cybersecurity, and I know how painful that would be. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I'm now going to hand it back. Okay? Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, Eugen, and everybody for the presentation and for their time. Now, Amrit is coming on stage. He's going to talk about Zilliqa and about sharding and scalability and building lightning-fast blockchains.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. So thank you for coming, and thank you for inviting me, Impetus team. Yeah, thank you. So let me start with my talk, which is essentially on blockchain scalability and secure smart contracts. Before I kind of motivate why we should do and why we should study these problems, let me take you through this first obvious question, which is, how many of you here have actually used a blockchain-based application, including payments, for instance? Oh, almost everyone. That's pretty cool. So now that you have used it, you must have seen this one, which is, we have been talking about games and ways to advertise. This is one very interesting and very cute little application called CryptoKitties, where the idea was that you digitize cats, and then you could take 2 cats, so you can buy cats and you can sell them, and then you could actually breed them and have new cats, and you could sell them again. Now, don't ask me why and since when cats have started laying eggs, but apparently in the crypto world, anything can happen. So this app became very, very popular to an extent that it kind of became the most popular app on Ethereum's blockchain for a certain while. So to an extent where this cat was sold for over $100,000. So you can imagine how crazy people were to actually buy those cats and to play that game.
Well, it is a beautiful cat.
Yeah, but does it deserve $100,000? Maybe not.
We got better stickers.
Yeah.
Our stickers look better than that.
Yeah. So, yeah, so
Maybe we can sell them for.
Sorry?
Maybe we can sell them on Zilliqa for 200K.
So the point here is that these cats are, I mean, people started really using that app, and to an extent where people were willing to pay such a big amount of money for this simple digital cat.
Maybe he will not bought the cat for himself or some free marketing like you are doing now for people.
Yeah. So it clearly shows that certain applications can actually be built on blockchain and they can become really popular. So there's this utility of blockchain. To, it actually shows that there's some utility for blockchain for real world applications. But the problem is the following. When this app became really popular, what happened was that the underlying blockchain platform, which was Ethereum in this case, was not able to support that application. There were so many users who were trying to play this game, and the underlying blockchain platform was just not able to cope with that traffic. To an extent where, around December last year, the gas price went so high that you can see a spike, and it's coming from CryptoKitties. And you can see the numbers, like it increased by over 4,000%, by around 4,000%. So it clearly shows that whenever you build a blockchain application, and if the underlying platform is not able to support that traffic, you will end up with those kind of issues. And of course, CryptoKitties, faced the same problem that we expected. And so they had solutions. And one obvious solution was that prevent users from playing that game. So what they did was they doubled the price of breeding cats. And once you do that, you are actually kind of forcing users to kind of push away from this application. Now imagine you as an app developer who wants to build a very popular app, and the moment it becomes very popular, you want to push your users away. So this is a very, very sad incident. So they did that, but of course they realized that this is not a solution to fix this problem. And the ultimate solution would be something that actually, that would be more long-term, and that would actually solve the underlying scalability problem of underlying blockchain. So there's a clear need of building a scalable blockchain platform that can actually support real-world applications, such as CryptoKitties. So to put things into perspective, here are the popular blockchain platforms and the throughput that they gave, so the throughput that they yield, so the number of transactions that they process per second. So Bitcoin and Ethereum, they are roughly around 10 transactions per second, while a simple payment application, which is Visa, which is a real-world application, it processes around 5,000 to 8,000 transactions per second on average, and it can actually go pretty high in peak hours or in Christmas time, for instance. So again, there's a clear gap between what blockchains or existing blockchains or popular blockchains provide in terms of throughput and what a simple application that will be implemented in the real world would require. So obviously, the entire community, if you are involved with Bitcoin and Ethereum, the entire community realizes that there's a problem, and all of them have solutions to fix this. So I'll just go through a few of those solutions and some of the limitations and what they can give. So the first, most obvious solution is to increase. Oh, sorry, it was not supposed to come right off, but anyway. So the most obvious solution is to increase block size. So if you know how Bitcoin and blockchains work, so blockchain is a chain of blocks, and a block can contain a bunch of transactions. So if you increase the size of your block, you can fit in more transactions, and hence you can have high throughput. Now, of course, so once you, let's say, increase your block size from, let's say, 1 megabyte to 2 megabyte, you can fit more transactions, and you can double the throughput. You can keep doing it, but the problem is that you have to stop somewhere because of network and constraints and limitations. So from a layman's perspective, let's say you have a simple bus which has a capacity of 40 passengers. If you want to double the capacity of this bus, you could convert this bus into a double-decker bus, and you could have, let's say, double the capacity now. But you cannot keep on doing this, because then you would end up in a bus like this, where if people like me or you have fear of heights, you won't want to ride on this bus. And again, then you have security, issues as well, because certain cities and certain countries have, height limitations. So, certain buses like these, they cannot actually go through. So this solution gives you very immediate throughput results. So you just increase you change one parameter, and then you can have very high throughut. But they have their own limitations. You have solutions like what are called off-chain solutions, where the idea is that reduce the traffic that goes to the main chain or the main network. For instance, here, let's say I have a very fancy Tesla car, and of course, it's an electric car, and I go to this charging station every morning to charge my car, and I pay, let's say, first day I paid $5, second day I paid $2.25, and so on and so forth. Now, instead of sending all these small little transactions to the main net or main network, I could be clever. And the idea is that what you could do is you could kind of assign a contract between you and the charging station. And you could say, look what, I'm not going to pay you every day. I'm going to pay you, let's say, every month. So you sign this contract and you send this contract, let's say, to the main network, and then you would send off-chain transactions. Will kind of reclaim entire money in one go. So you have reduced all these small little transactions to just 2 transactions, the start and the end, and then the rest are all off-chain. So you're definitely reducing the number of transactions that goes to the main network, so you'll get high throughput. But then you're losing in terms of different properties that come through blockchain, right? You first have to ensure that you're losing in terms of transparency and let's say decentralization of costs, because you need to probably build another network on top of regular network, and that again has its own issues. The other question is, can you actually extend it beyond payments? People are actually looking into this problem, and we probably may have a solution for that. But again, this solution has its problems again, and that's why we decided to work on something different, and which is sharding. So let me take you through this idea of sharding and how it works at a very higher level. I'm not going to go into deep technical details. We can discuss after the talk. So first, what exactly we are doing with sharding? So the idea is that when your network grows, your throughput should grow as well. So these are actual numbers that we observed from our internal testnet. So when we started with, let's say, 1800 nodes, we observed a throughput of around 1200 transactions per second. And when we doubled the network size from 1800 to 3600, we observed that the transaction throughput doubled as well, from 1200 to 2488 transactions per second. So this is pretty counterintuitive, because if you look at how Bitcoin and Ethereum work, the moment you add more nodes, things become slower and slower. And here is slightly different. It keeps on growing. Now, so where is this idea coming from? And the idea is as I said, this is the idea of sharding. And it comes from, if you're familiar with databases, sharding is pretty known in that field, where what you do is you have a big table, and what you could do is you divide that big table into smaller number of rows. So let's say you could take the first 2 rows, and one server would only handle requests coming to that 2 rows. So that's an idea that's very, very prevalent in database systems. But it was not known whether you could actually apply the same idea in the context of blockchains. So some of our team members wrote this academic paper in 2015, where we showed that you could actually have the same idea and implement that in the context of blockchain to solve the scalability problem. So what we did at Zilliqa was to implement this idea into a real-world deployment and then test it. So first, we implemented it in a permission setting where where you had a set of nodes that were predefined. These nodes were essentially banks and exchanges, and we tried this with these banks and exchanges in Singapore. We felt that okay, it works pretty well, but the problem is that in a permission setting, you don't have too many nodes, and if you don't have nodes, you cannot scale up, because the whole idea of sharding is that if you have more nodes, then only you can scale up. And in a permission setting, you just don't have that liberty. So how do you actually leverage and exploit the idea of sharding? The only way to do is to make it public, because when you make your chain public, you can invite nodes from the community to join, and then you can have a lot of nodes, and then you can have scalability. So this is exactly what we did, and this is how Zilliqa came into existence, where we built this idea of sharding and implemented it in an open public setting. So I'm going to, at a higher level, if you have a scalable blockchain platform, then you would also reduce the cost of processing transaction, right? Because if you look at Bitcoin and Ethereum, right now you have to compete for the 5 to 10 transactions that goes in a block. Instead of instead, if compared to that, now you won't have to do that because you have a higher capacity to process transactions. So now let's imagine you have a blockchain platform like Zilliqa, which processes a lot of transactions per second, which has a very high throughput. What kind of application you can build on top of that? Since we have been talking about digital advertising, we can't ignore that fact. So we can actually build a digital advertising supply chain on Zilliqa. I'm not going to go into the details of it because we have been talking about this since the start. So they have their own problems, and this market is pretty big. You have big giants like Google and Facebook involved in this market. And you have things like ad fraud, people using ad blockers and try to destabilize ad-based economy in some way. So you need a way to make it more transparent, to ensure that those middlemen that are not necessary could be removed from the system. And so we felt that this is a very important application that you can think of to build on a blockchain. The other reason is that it involves a lot of players. Because on the one hand, you have advertisers. So you could imagine all advertisers like Adidas, Nike, who want to advertise their product. On the other hand of the spectrum, you have the publishers like BBC.com, Wall Street Journal, which publish those ads. And then at the end, you have users who actually see those ads. So it covers a wide area, or wide group of entities in this application. But obviously, imagine building such an application on existing platforms. You won't be able to do that because Google alone, delivers around 1 billion transactions per day. And if you look at Ethereum, they process around 1 million transactions per day. So there's a huge gap between what existing platforms offer and what you require from such an application. So even if, let's say, Ethereum decides to dedicate the entire infrastructure to process only ad-related transactions, even then, this application cannot be built. So what we are trying to do is we are partnered with a company called Mindshare, which is a digital media advertising agency, and to understand what are the problems that they face and how we can solve them. So we are planning to build a part of ad supply chain on Zilliqa together with Mindshare. Of course, digital advertising is not the only application that you can think of. You could imagine questions like, can you build an application like Uber on blockchain? Or even simpler, can you imagine building a regular payment network on blockchain? Which is not the case yet. So all these applications actually require very high throughput, and if you don't solve the scalability problem, then you won't be able to build those applications that will require a really scalable platform. Okay, so now let me take you through a very quick overview of how Zilliqa works and how sharding works. So the higher level idea is that if you know how Bitcoin and Ethereum work, when you as a user creates a transaction, you send it to the network, and every single node in the network processes and validates your transaction. So it's very decentralized, it's very secure, because even if a few nodes are down, the system will continue to process your transactions. But then it's very redundant as well, because imagine your single transaction being processed by a network of 40,000 nodes. So we felt that you could do better, and that's why we do this, implement this idea of sharding. And what happens in sharding is that you could start with a very large network, let's say a network of 10,000 nodes, and then you could divide them into smaller groups, let's say each group containing 1,000 nodes, so that when you have some transactions, a lot of transactions, you could divide those transactions into separate parts, so that a shard, this smaller group processes only a subset of all transactions, not the entire set of transactions. And then if you can do that, then you could process transactions in parallel, and hence you can have high throughput, entire set of transactions. And then if you can do that, then you could process transactions in parallel, and hence you can have high throughput. So high level idea is that you take your network, you divide it, and then you try to conquer it in parallel. Of course, the idea is pretty simple because you're just trying to divide and trying to run things in parallel. But at the base layer, things are pretty complicated. One is how do you actually build those shards? What is the number of nodes that you want to put in the shard? If it's large enough, how do you ensure that the consensus that you run in each shard is very efficient? So what we're trying to do is to take an old school consensus protocol called PBFT and we use this consensus algorithm within each shard. But in order to make it more efficient, we use some clever cryptographic primitives to make it more optimized and efficient. So okay, so this is a very quick overview of Zilliqa and sharding. Now let me take you to do smart contract, because I said that we're going to talk about scalability and secure smart contracts. So we are also working on smart contracts as well, because we feel that there's some this line of problem. So let me tell you what exactly is the problem with smart contracts. So for those who have who have interacted with Ethereum's blockchain, you must have heard of DAO. So where an attacker was able to find a bug in a contract and was able to steal funds from that contract to an extent where around $60 million were stolen. And the impact was that this contract this bug forced the Ethereum network to actually forge, and hence you have Ethereum and Ethereum Classic right now. Then again, of course, that was not an isolated incident. Very recently, a month or probably 2 months ago, you had this incident from Parity where an attacker, not an attacker probably, someone who was playing around with the smart contract was able to destroy the contract, and around $300 million were frozen in that contract. So you could see that there's money there, but you just can't take it out. So of course, these are not going to be the only incidents. The next one is probably just outside the door, and you might see it probably tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. So there's a definite problem. Certainly there's a problem with smart contracts, so the way the smart contracts are being deployed and how safe these contracts are. But let me take you let me try to explain to you why these contracts are actually buggy to some extent, or why these contracts are not very safe. So the first, the major problem is with complexity. So smart contracts are generally like any program that you want to write. So they can do a bunch of mathematical computations like additions, multiplications. They also manipulate a global state. So imagine you are involved in an ERC20 or ICO contract. This contract would maintain a mapping between which user contributed how much amount of money. So this state is being maintained by this contract. And then a contract can actually talk to other contract as well. Now imagine, these are very nice features to have, because then you have a lot of flexibility in building the contracts that you want. And you can build very interesting real world applications. But then you have issues. The problem is that when you have such a contract, you have to consider the fact that you're running it in a very Byzantine and very malicious environment, where you as a user might be clever or stupid, and you might try to interact with this smart contract in a very stupid way and try to steal money from that contract, or try to freeze money in that contract. Or you could be your miners who are sitting in the network, they could themselves be malicious and try to do funny stuff. Or the worst part is that a contract, when it talks to another contract, that contract can itself be malicious. And this is what happened in the case of DAO. So now imagine all of these nice features happening with smart contracts, and all of this is actually being run in a very malicious and Byzantine environment. And this creates a lot of risks. So when you are a user, when you're a developer, when you develop a smart contract, for you it's very hard to say that my contract is very safe, because you don't know. When you deploy the contract on the network, you don't know what's going to happen with your network because of all these complications. And furthermore, so for you in general as a developer, for you it's very easy to say that my contract is going to behave in a certain manner, in the sense that it's going to do this, this, and this. But it's very hard for you to say that my contract is not going to behave in a certain manner. So in more concrete terms, for a contract like these, it's hard to give very formal guarantees about the contracts. For instance, you couldn't say, or you can't say, it's very hard for you to say that my contract, I can guarantee with mathematical guarantees that my contract is going to just do this, nothing beyond that. So there's lack of formal arguments around smart contracts. And one reason is that because of all these complexities. And of course, when you have a problem, you want to solve them, and this is where we try to do as well. So we felt that, of course, smart contracts need some kind of, needs a little bit of work. And we decided to build a new smart contract language that we call Zilliqa. And the idea is that, at a higher level, the idea is that you take Solidity and you try to simplify it and structure it in a way that it becomes slightly easier for developers to make or write safer smart contracts. So So essentially, Zilliqa is based on what is called an automata, where so this is essentially a light bulb represented as an automata, where a light bulb will have a bunch of states. So this light bulb will have 3 states: off, dim, and bright. And then a user can interact with this light bulb and can change the state of the system. So a user could press once, and then the light bulb will go from off to dim. If it presses for a longer period of time, then it will go from dim to bright. So the entire contract can actually be defined using, let's say, a previous state of the system, an input coming from the user, and the next state of the system that will be decided by the contract. So it gives you a very proper structure to how a contract would look like, or how a contract should behave. There are a bunch of other things that have been done with the smart contract language that makes it it's pretty safe. So here's what a fragment of a contract in Zilliqa would look like. So here's a contract, a Kickstarter contract. So for those who are not familiar with Kickstarter, the idea is that, let's say you have a very to build on, let's say, to build an app, but you don't have money to fund your project. What you could do is you could ask the crowd to fund your project, and you could ask them to give money to your project. And then if you have enough money, then you could start, building your project. So this contract has, let's say, 3 parameters that won't, that will get initialized when the contract gets created, just as in Solidity. So you have an owner who actually receives the fund at the end. You have a deadline before which every crowd member has to submit or send money. And you have a goal, which is, let's say, I want to raise $1 million. And if I'm not able to raise $1 million before this deadline, I'm going to abandon the project. And I'm going to refund all the money that I've received. And of course, you need to maintain a mapping between which user contributed how much amount of money, and you have a simple Boolean flag that says, okay, whether the campaign has been successful or not. And the interface gives you 2 functions right now. One is donate, so any user can call this function and donate money to this contract. And then if the campaign has failed, then you could call the other function reclaim and try to take back your money. So generally speaking, it's very similar to how you would write a contract in Solidity. Okay, I'm not going to go into the details of it, but the high-level idea is that if you structure your language properly, you could eliminate incidents like that at the very language level. Okay, you can ignore this slide. But the problem is that you could eliminate certain bugs, such as the bug that happened in DAO. But can you guarantee that you haven't missed other bugs? And for that, you need formal verification, formal proofs. So what we did was, as an example, we took this Kickstarter contract that I showed you in Zilliqa, and we modeled it in a theorem prover that's called Coq. And we could show 3 very interesting properties about the contract. So we could show that the contract will always have enough funds to refund people if ever it refunds. So it's not going to leak money as happened in DAO. So it's not going to lose money. The contract will never manipulate the contract records. So if, let's say, you have contributed $5, I'm not going to change it to $10, or I'm not going to reduce it to $2. So the contract will maintain the correct contribution records. And eventually, if ever the contract has to refund money, it will refund the right amount of money. So this gives you very strong guarantees about how the contract will behave. And if you try to introduce bugs in the contract, the proof will break. So the proof would say that, no, your contract is no longer safe. So there are a bunch of, the work has not ended. We are still working on it. There are a bunch of things that we are working on. For instance, we don't want developers to learn a new language because nobody wants to learn a new language. It's pretty hard. So we are working on, we believe that Zilliqa won't be a language that people will be directly coding in, even if it's you can code. We are working on a higher level language that will have syntax similar to Solidity. So if you're familiar with Solidity, you can use very similar syntactic constructions to write a contract. And then we will have compilers that will take that contract written in a higher level language and compile it down to Zilliqa. There are a bunch of other things that we are working on. I'll be happy to talk about them after the talk. So where are we now? We have, as I said, we observed throughput of around 2,500 transactions per second back in December with a network of 3,600 nodes. We have a testnet which is live. So this testnet has, to some extent, it's very limited in the sense that you could send transactions, but you cannot run a node in the network right now. But we have an explorer and a wallet that you can use in combination to interact with that network. Of course, we are constantly improving the code and adding new features to it. We have a smart contract paper that was published in January this year. We are working on a smart contract implementation right now. We will be demonstrating the smart contract interpreter in 3 days' time, I guess, when we are back in Singapore. By the way, so a part of the code is ready and it's functional. I invite you to come and attack our network and come and break it and help us fix it. Just next steps, well, it's just to highlight that our plans is to release our mainnet in Q3 this year, and we'd be very happy if you could help us test and break our code base and protocol. Thank you so much for your attention and patience.
I'm sure there's a lot of people having questions around, so if you have any questions, just go ahead, raise a hand. We'll have a mic next to you. You can ask Amrit, you can ask myself, you can ask anybody who had the presentation. So just raise a hand. If there are no questions, we're going to go on the hall and party together with those people there having a loud music. There's a question.
Hello, I have a question about Zilliqa. When it will be released on the mainnet network, what mining algorithm it will be used?
We are currently using, and we have plans to use Ethash, the same mining algorithm as in Ethereum.
Okay, it will be ASIC resistant.
Okay, so this is a tricky question. Let me explain to you why things are different compared with Ethereum. In Ethereum, when you mine a block, you do a proof of work, right? So for every block, you have to do a proof of work. In Zilliqa, it's different. And so in Ethereum, everything that a miner has to do is to do a proof of work, nothing beyond that. In Zilliqa, when you join a network, you have to do proof of work, and then you use Ethash. But then this proof of work will be done only, let's say, after every 100 blocks. And between these 100 blocks, when you actually produce new blocks, you would be running BBFT. So if you have an ASIC, which is usually especially designed for a specific, let's say, Ethash, you won't be able to sign using that hardware. So you'd probably need some other specific hardware to be attached with that ASIC to be actually able to mine on that network, on Zilliqa network.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Mauro. Nice to meet you.
Hey, hi.
Can you back up 3 slides? 4. And explain the upper balloon.
The top one?
Yeah.
Okay, so the top one is, the idea is that can you do certain computations depending on certain security budget? So let's say you have a smart contract and you don't want, so let's say it's a very simple smart contract that doesn't require that much of security. Can you design a way so that you could run this computation with a very less security but still able to run consistent on that? So what you're trying to do is to divide computation in a way that every computation will have a security budget, and depending on that budget, you could compromise certain things. So it's in the pipeline.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Any other question? You have to go for party as well, huh?
Please,
yeah.
Please, have you now social application or only ITC pressure?
Sorry, I didn't catch your question, sorry.
Have you social applications now or only ITC pressure?
So we don't have any application built on Zilliqa yet. The reason is the smart contract platform is not ready. Yeah. Everybody wants to go to party now. Well, you need to get a rocket for that.
You just need a better perception.
Yeah, you need a better perception. Yes. Okay, so right now we are not doing interoperability. The reason is we feel that scalability is our strength right now, and we would rather go for that. There are other things that we have to solve first. For instance, we feel that even if you build a really interesting application on Zilliqa, you need to think about privacy. So eventually, we do understand that you will have a lot of blockchains and very good ones, and you need a way to interact with those blockchains. We might work with some existing players in the market who actually are building interoperability solutions, and we'd rather partner with them rather than building a solution on our own. Sorry? For instance. Nice to meet you, Jay.
Which cannot be built on Zilliqa.
Okay, so in the worst, in the very weird scenario, you won't be able. So the language Scilla won't have infinite loops. So let's say for some weird reasons you want to write a contract that has infinite loops, you won't be able to write that contract here. One way would be, one application would be where this application waits for users' inputs, and it's in a kind of a infinite for loop. You won't be able to build that. But if you compare this application on Ethereum, for instance, even if you write an infinite loop in Solidity on Ethereum, you won't be able to run it anyway because of the block gas limit that you have. So any application that you can think of right now can be built in Scilla. Unless very exotic ones that probably you don't need it. Yes.
On sharding, because they also work on sharding, do you happen to know if there will be some differences with regards to performance, the performance that they are targeting versus the performance that Zilliqa is targeting right now?
You mean Ethereum or?
Yes.
I see. Yeah. So what Ethereum is trying to do is what's called state sharding, where the idea is that you certainly do the network sharding, so you divide the network and then you divide the transactions, and beyond that, you may also want to divide the storage so that every node does not have to store the entire state of the system. So let's say I have a shard, that shard could only store my balance and not anybody else's balance, and then the second shard will store, let's say, Samuel's balance, for instance. So this is the essential idea of state sharding. So we are not going that route because we feel that one, it's complicated. Number two, it has its own issues. For instance, what happens when one shard goes down? So let's say my shard, which has my balance, if it goes down, what's going to happen with my account? So there are a bunch of other problems that you may face with state sharding, and I personally feel that state sharding it has its own set of open problems that people will have to solve. So we have plans to explore state sharding, but right now we would rather go and do baby steps rather than going for a giant step. Any other question? I think we are good. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for your questions.
Okay, guys, so this was about it. Thank you very much for each of one of you that came here. We're going to use that door to exit. There's wine, there's water, and there's a little bit to eat, waiting. Let's network, let's socialize, let's ask questions and become friends.